It's one of the hardest I've ever cried, like ugly, just like gasping for air. And our daughter comes running in. She's like, Daddy, are you okay? I'm like, I'm so good, sweetie. I just hit something. It's fine. I'm good. I'm good. And so it changed my relationship with my own emotions. I had this big enlightenment experience, big breakthrough in 2019. And as soon as I came out of it, the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, if I could do this, everybody could do this.
I remember once I talked to this energetic healer. She's like, oh, there's a big mother wound here. I was like, yeah, it's there. Get it out. Let's go. And she said, nope. You're not ready yet. I'm like, well, when am I going to be ready to heal this? Like, I got shit to do. And she's like, 1 year.
About 85% of our thoughts on any given day are going to trend towards negative. About 95% of our thoughts are going to trend towards something we've thought before. I just had this like gut check moment. I'm like, well, screw that. I'm not listening to anything going on up here anymore. And what I've come to recognize is our brain is much more like Grand Central Station than any type of data center that things originate from.
Is there something in your life that keeps coming back and you're like, damn it, I thought we put that away?
Welcome to the Fully Expressed podcast.
We're your hosts, Corinna
and Samantha.
And this is the show where we're inviting you into your fullest expression in life, love, and business.
Enjoy. Hey guys, today's guest, Kevin Russell, is someone who has really woven in and out of our lives, our community. We just love what he brings to the table. He is a mind, body, mastery, and subconscious transformation guide, an energy intuitive, and an author of both an adult book and a children's book.
This episode is so wonderful because he really kind of gives you permission to start to feel, to really feel, to genuinely feel. And he walks us through that in his own journey, and it all stemmed from just struggles in his personal relationship with his wife. And the beautiful thing is that they did a lot of this work together in parallel. And he's very honest about what that process really looked like for them, and then opens up the can of worms of what's possible for all of us, because it is so beautiful when we get so in touch with our inner world so that we can express ourselves more authentically in this lifetime.
In this episode, you will actually receive practical tools and things that you can do to go a little deeper within yourself. You're going to love this episode.
Enjoy.
Kevin, welcome.
Hello, ladies.
To the show.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to speak with you both.
It was so cool because you came to our podcast party where we got to meet you and then got to know you better. And then you held a workshop in our virtual community that people loved.
Great.
And here you are today.
Here we are.
To further the conversation.
I love it. Let's keep it going.
So there's so many places we could start. You have so much to share and offer. But I was thinking maybe you could give a little background of your journey from where you kind of started to where you are now, because I think it's so relatable. One, the inner work that you've been doing on yourself that's brought you to where you are, but also just the path that it's led you on with your partner, with your wife, and how that's affected you as a dad, as a partner. So I would love to just know, like, give the audience a little background into you and where you began versus where you are.
I'll try and get it all in there in a efficient amount of time. So I guess in a lot of ways, it's been a lifelong journey. I think a lot of people can relate to that in different ways, where things work until they don't work. And then we need to figure out a different way to show up, to be, to embody. And different fits and starts in early life gave me some really strong contrast as far as what I really wanted and what I didn't want. And then also really introduced me to that inner space, which has been gradually expanding and sometimes massively expanding along the way. But the journey in earnest really started in about 2016 when our daughter was in 4th grade. And our relationship, and even to us, on the surface was great. Everything was good. But underneath, there was some resentment. There was some frustration. There was some animosity. There was a lot of, why can't you be more like me? And those were leading to arguments that we were not admitting we were arguing. No, we're just arguing semantics. Oh, we're just disagreeing on what we're saying. But the energy underneath it was really palpable and felt, and it was primarily being absorbed by our daughter. And so she got symptomatic because of our BS. We're still pretty externally focused at this point. And so we were like, well, something's wrong with our daughter. We need to get her help. And that led us to really opening the door into the deeper work, into the subconscious, into where and how emotions get trapped, processed, mutated, transformed, and how they express in a lot of different ways based on not being able to express and release, where we've kind of taken ourselves out of that natural order of being able to just shake it off and go back to the present. And so there's a lot of holding up the mirror, a lot of gut check moments. And a lot of perfectly timed helpers along the way that really gave us not only the insight, the awareness, the challenges, but also the introduction to the tools. So not only could we be able to do it for ourselves, but we could take care of the things that were affecting us faster, I think, than we ever could have anticipated.
Mm.
And so I like to share this part. The first real entree was getting our daughter help with a Western doctor who also practiced a form of subconscious inquiry and muscle testing. And in about 7 minutes and one or two muscle tests they come up with or connect with, I get anxious when mom and dad fight, and that's when I get this anxious habit.
Mm.
And so the doctor says, well, can you wait in the waiting room, sweetie? And daughter leaves, turns to my wife. He says, she's fine. You two need to do the work. And so it was one of those, like, either, it was a fork in the road, like yes or no, what are we doing? And thankfully, both of us we were all in, because we were very much still in love. We were very much still knowing, like, no, you're my person. Mm-hmm. Let's just get rid of this noise and nonsense that's getting in the way of this deeper, truer connection. And so that really jumped us into the inner work, the deeper path, and then kind of unintentionally in some ways and unexpectedly delivered me to this new season in life that I'm embracing and leaning into, both professionally and personally, continuing that journey.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, like, I feel like no one really realizes how much your relationship impacts your kids. And I think it's so interesting. I wonder, I would ask you today, or maybe at the time, like, would you have noticed that yourself if you didn't have the tools? Like, the tools brought the answer, but I'm so curious, like, would have you put that two and two together, that your daughter had this anxious behavior that was showing up as an illness or something that you guys wanted to help her with, that ended up being a result of your anxiety in the relationship?
Well, and it's funny because I think it was my wife and I's frustration that was contributing to the anxiety that was being built in her and our daughter.
Mm.
So we were aware because we could see it. And she would scratch and itch any little thing she had to the point where she was bleeding. And it looked like she had chicken pox.
Wow.
And we'd send her to school with those little circle Band-Aids just to, like, well, we're like, just stop scratching. But we had no awareness of, like, the causation or the correlation or anything that was contributing to it until we took those steps. So had we not had it have been like a really perfectly timed kind of introduction with, and it really all started with one of my wife's best friends, where she had injured her back in a hiking accident, went and saw the same doctor, where we were lucky enough or connected enough to have the referral at the right time, because she went to the extent of getting back surgery, because even after her back healed, the pain would not go away. And so she started working at more of the emotional subconscious belief level, subconscious trauma or stress level. And what they uncovered was, my back is giving me a signal that something is, rotten in Denmark, so to speak. Something is not right within her system. And what was contributing to it was her either lack of a voice or unhappiness in her marriage and her relationship. And so they addressed those, recognizing we can't do anything to change anybody else. All we can do is clean up our side of the street. And in I think it was about 6 weeks, her back pain disappeared completely.
Wow.
And so we had that kind of awareness, but it still took, we were still very three-dimensional, very externally focused, of like, what at face value, our daughter is being symptomatic, so we need to get her help. And then that U-turned straight to us. So I don't know if we would have gotten there without it kind of being this, like, perfect situation.
Universal having your back. The
Yeah,
universe
100%,
having your back.
100%. Or at least the universe being like, hey,
Yeah. It's actually you're the problem.
there's an opportunity for you. And now it's, I always say, these are not the windows of the soul. These are the mirrors of reality. And so everything we see is a reflection of our internal state. And we were grateful enough, and it sucked that our daughter was the canary in the coal mine for us. But the beauty part is, her anxiety was able to have been assisted in releasing and reducing, because we were holding our own feet to the fire and handling our getting rid of that, the layers of conditioning and programming, and reverting back to those old ways of being that many of us do when we get comfortable in a relationship. and really being conscious of being much more present and aware, not only of the other, but especially of
Mm.
us. What's going on internally that maybe is contributing to me being short or saying something that I otherwise wouldn't say,
Mm-hmm.
or feeling, emoting, or saying something internally that's not kind or not helpful or not supportive. And really cleaning up those lenses and those filters in life. That was kind of the big steps that we
Hmm.
that we took. Yeah.
It's also really cool because I feel like I'm trying to think back to me as a little girl, like if I ever had like anxious behaviors that were just projections of my parents' anxiety. Um, so I don't know if that would help anyone that's listening because it also goes the other way, right? Like maybe there's like an opportunity for you to look back and say like, oh wow, like this behavior that I picked up was because of
Scenario, yeah.
something that was playing out in my parents' world, not even my world.
And most of it is.
Mm-hmm.
And for the parents out there listening, don't argue behind closed doors
Mm-hmm.
because
Doesn't work.
you think it does. Oh, we're downstairs, the kids are
Yeah.
upstairs asleep. But if we look at it through the lens of energy,
Mm-hmm.
so we all have electromagnetic fields. We'll have a biome, which
Mm-hmm.
includes our electromagnetic field, our thermodynamic field. We're all basically little batteries.
Yeah.
And that extends in general 12 to 15 feet in all directions at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're sharing biochemical information right now. And when we're in an environment, it can be felt palpably.
Mm-hmm.
And so an example would be if you've ever walked in a room after a fight and it feels like there's static and there's just like, ooh, what just happened? Or alternatively, if you walk in a room after a reunion or a birthday party and there's this kind of upwelling, like that's real.
Yeah.
I mean, back before we got into the modern medical model, ether used to be actually in the periodic table of elements.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that connective layer, much like the fascia in our body connects the organs and the soft tissue and the muscles and the bones. There's this invisible energetic fascia, we might call it, that
Mm-hmm.
connects everything to everything else.
Mm.
Well, it's like when you're in church too, and you feel that energy. I mean, there's an energy. It's so palpable. Or
Yeah.
at a concert, and everyone
Yeah.
is into the music.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many examples of how we're being affected by everyone around us. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm curious, what was it like to do this work alongside your wife? Because I think a lot of times one person is often evolving while the other's kind of hanging out, and then
Yeah.
you tend to flip flop, I
Yeah.
think. But to like make that commitment to do it together,
Mhm.
what was that experience like? What did it look like?
It was very much that. I don't know if anybody's ever done that thing where you like hold hands and you spin in a circle and you
Hmm.
kind of get that centrifugal force. So some of it was like me sprinting ahead, and then and the beauty thing was we were both focusing on, use that analogy, our side of the street. We were both focusing on our side of the street, recognizing there's always three elements or three components to any relationship. It's you, it's me, and it's the relationship.
Hmm.
And so by focusing on you and me, then the relationship inherently improves.
Hmm.
I think one of the challenges is a lot of people focus on the relationship without focusing on the self. And that's where we tend to not get to where we want to be. So it was different fits and starts. I think early on, there were different safety programs we were running that I was a little bit more open and aware and so sick of my own nonsense that I was just like, I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not hiding from any of it. I'm ready to admit the hard thing. And there was a bit more coming back to self, especially in the beginning from my wife, just based on the safety and the survival programs that we had adopted to that point of what we learned from our parents is we learn how to survive.
Yeah.
And that's for better or for worse. And it really serves us in some ways. But anything to excess is going to tend to tip the turnip card. It's going to tend to imbalance us. And so it was very much like a dual climb. Like in some of these micro seasons we were experiencing, I was setting the lead and I was climbing ahead, and on others, I was kind of like on my heels and getting rocked a little bit, and my wife would climb.
Hmm.
But it was really that collaborative approach and recognizing that and really focusing on we're on the same team. We want the same thing. What's getting in the way?
Mm.
And it's not to say that there aren't things that get in the way now, but the difference is between 10 years ago and now, instead of stewing in it or carrying it with us for a week, a month, years sometimes, it's catching it almost before it happens because we're much more attuned and aware of our inner states.
Mm.
So we don't let whatever we may be experiencing of lack, of fear, of scarcity, like kind of vomit out into the relationship or into the space. And we're both much more adept at handling our own stuff, which enables us to be more present for each other if we are in those low periods, if we are in those seasons of the messy middle, or that space in between that can be so terrifying for us, all of us, in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Mm. So good. Did you guys, I want to know, when you guys were going through this process,
Mm-hmm.
what were some of like the, if there were, I don't know if they were, but like the edgiest, scariest things to admit?
So one actually
Very
happened
good.
when we started working with this Western MD. We would see him individually, and then we'd see him together. And the beauty part was, it wasn't couples therapy in the sense that we weren't talking to each other. We were almost like triangulating with the doctor as the facilitator. And even if we were arguing, fighting, we weren't happy, we had this thing when we'd go to bed, we'd always at least be touching toes in the bed, even if we were sleeping on opposite sides of the bed. And to us in our three-dimensional minds, this was like, this was a Boy Scout patch. We're like, hey, even though we're frustrated, we're still physically connecting because we're committing to making it through, to figuring it out. So that came up in a session. And the doctor asked me, well, when you're in that space of not being super happy with each other or fighting and you're touching toes, how far away do you actually want to be? And I'm like, right in that same exact space. And he's muscle testing to see the
The truth.
Yeah, the truth.
exactly.
Yeah. He's like, uh-huh,
Yeah,
yeah.
because we're all truth detectors. We're all massive antennas. We receive and we emit, and we're also like very, very resonant with what is a yes or what is a no.
Right.
So I want to be I don't want anything to change. Nope. Okay, in the same bed, just not touching. Nope. Okay, I guess on the couch. Nope. And like I mentioned, I'd been pretty good at like being able to connect with the harder truth to admit, even if it was hard. And for some reason, this one was a little bit cloudy. So I got to the point of, okay, on the couch, and that was a no. I was like, okay, hold on. And I got quiet, and I kind of held it up to myself. And I was like, how far away do you want to be? And what I heard was another galaxy. I want to be in a different galaxy. And my wife is sitting here right next to me. And I'm like, I want to be in a different galaxy. Rock solid. And my wife turns to me and she's like, and
How could you?
I'm like,
Yeah.
but no, but that part of me,
Yeah.
that really tender, delicate, sensitive part of me, which I was connecting with, because as soon as I said it, the tears started flowing. And it was almost in one breath, one of the most challenging things I've ever admitted, but one of the most freeing as well. Because then the elephant is addressed in the room, and I'm not letting my stuff hide anywhere. And so that was one of those that was, it was brought up a few times because there was that wound of hearing that on my wife's side of things. But we were able to really move pretty efficiently through it because it was just that like kind of first step of like getting to that really deeper truth. So I don't want to speak for my wife, Kelly, but she had some experiences where she was very much guarding her heart from a lot of early experiences in childhood, and also she was as a teenager. And this was in a session she was just having by herself with the doctor, and they hit a really emotional vein. And on the one hand, my wife is a very fierce warrior. On the other hand, she is a very delicate and sensitive soul. And so this was kind of that like coming together of those aspects of self, where they hit on something, and she just started crying. But there was a bit of an emotional disconnection to where she was crying but not quite registering it. And so the doctor said, well, what's going on there? What's going on with your face? And she's like, water. And I was like, well, what do we call that? And she's like, tears. He's like, yeah, you're crying. You're letting it go. And so what we really came to, as far as the energetic equation of emancipation, of expansion, of coming back to ourselves, whatever lens we want to look at it through, is it's very much a reductive exercise. It's letting go of those programs, letting go of those ways of being that we adopted and we just slipstreamed into from our families of origin, because there's a cutover where it becomes, instead of it becoming a survival mechanism, it becomes a cage that we're trapped in. Unless we're aware of the inner workings of the thoughts we experience, the things we do and pursue in life, and for what reason. And so, those are just those are kind of two of the most indelible ones I remember. But I mean,
Wow.
there was one Saturday I remember where this was a year or two later. I had a lot of the tools. I was working on myself pretty much every day because I was so sick of it. I
Hmm.
was just so sick of the depressive thoughts, or the ennui or the melancholy or whatever it was on any given day. And so I had this process up and running, and I hit my own, kind of vein, my own pocket of gold. And I remember sitting on the edge of our bed, and I was muscle testing. I was using something called the emotion code at the time,
Mm.
and I hit on something, and all of a sudden, it felt like I had like a cylinder in my system that was just filled with water. It felt very dense and kind of just like not able to move. And it felt like somebody pulled the bottom of that and it just flushed.
Mm.
And it's one of the hardest I've ever cried, like ugly, just like gasping for air. And our daughter comes running in. She's like, "Daddy, are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm so good, sweetie. I just hit something. It's fine. I'm good. I'm good." And so it changed my relationship with my own emotions.
Hmm.
And I was much more able to just let things go, or actually emote, to hit that pressure release valve, instead of some false sense of whatever that was like, "Oh no, I got to be
Control.
control, or I got to
Mm.
show up and tough, and I'm not allowed to be sensitive or allowed to be vulnerable because I need to set a certain example for my daughter, or I need to lead in a
Mhm.
certain way with my partner." And it was very much just hey, I don't even know what this is, but I'm so glad it's gone and I'm
Mhm.
not experiencing it anymore. And then there's a greater expansion into a more light feeling,
Hmm.
a quieter mind, more presence. And then it was, I think we went and did something fun. I was like, let's go to the park or something. She's like, "Are
Mhm.
you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. It's all good." It was a release. That's all it was. Yeah. So there's a lot of changing the relationship with the self and with the environment.
Hmm. I love that you're sharing this too, just because I feel like, I mean, that level of depth and feeling, like taking yourself to that place and feeling like giving yourself permission to do that. Once you do it, it feels like the best, ugliest cry you've ever had.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is so good. And it's just like coming out and coming out. But it's so funny. And it's like until the dam breaks open,
Mhm.
it feels like I'm never going to let that go. Like, it's
Right.
almost like we're so scared of what's going to come on the other side of it.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day about this, and I was like, once you build the emotional capacity to be with it, it's not that scary, but
Right.
it's literally like sitting at the edge of a pool and you're like, I'm going to jump in. No, I'm
Yeah.
not going to jump in. I'm not
Yeah.
going to jump in. I'm not to jump in. I'm not
Yeah.
going to jump in. But once you jump in, you already feel so much better.
100%.
And when it comes to feeling your feelings, like it's the same way. Like we have all these ways of protecting from feeling, but I'm
Hmm.
like, if we just let ourselves feel, it's actually, yes, you feel the pain,
Hmm.
but there's like such a relief because the fighting is more exhausting than just the doing of the feeling.
And
Yeah.
it wastes time, it wastes energy, it wastes potential relationships or
Hmm.
existing relationships,
Health. I mean, everything.
health,
Yeah.
I mean,
wealth.
it's costing you
Yeah.
Oh my
so
gosh, the
much.
cost is almost immeasurable because it shows up in so many different ways that we're
Mhm.
not aware of until we become aware of it.
Mhm.
And then once we realize, unfortunately, a lot of times where we get to is, why didn't I come to this work sooner? Why didn't I know these techniques or this approach 10
Yeah.
years ago? And it's just as simple as because we weren't ready, we
Mhm.
weren't there, or it wasn't quite time yet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you're listening to this, it could be a permission to be ready.
It better be like, what are we doing here?
I
Yeah.
know.
If we're not tending to the garden on the inside, we it's going to be almost impossible to create a sustainable garden in life.
Yeah.
And it's really it's that relationship opportunity and challenge of relationship with self and with the system. And this is where I really differentiate between me and my system.
Mhm.
My system is very programmed for survival and how to live in this time, in this place. And the challenge is our systems prefer familiar chaos to unfamiliar safety,
Mm,
Mhm.
which is kind of what you were speaking to, where if we learned that survival early on in life is monitoring or managing my emotions so I can manage others, or not rocking the boat, or proving myself to be
Mhm.
worthy or to receive acceptance, or
Yeah.
even love, that then becomes the program we run. And again, it's not to say that it's bad, but just like anything, like, too much water can kill us.
Yeah.
Too much sugar and too much, highly processed food is going to impact the system. And so it's shifting that relationship and that awareness of recognizing we aren't our thoughts, our emotions, or our reactions. We experience them.
Yeah, you're just the observer of them.
If we can,
If you can get there.
if we can
If we
shift
can
into
get there,
that
we have
place,
to build some capacity and awareness to
and
do
that's the
so.
practice.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say all we're doing here is practicing.
What I love what you said too, though, is going back to when you were describing what the experience was like with your wife, is that it is this, like, you take a few steps forward and maybe you pause, or maybe you fall back a little bit and then you go up again. And I think some people feel like they want to heal and they feel almost overwhelmed by the thought of what it's going to take to get to the other side. Yeah. And I think just sharing that is so helpful, because it's this hilly, rocky, up and down experience. It's not this linear path of like, oh, I'm aware of my problems, so let me just really quickly get over them. Right. It's like, oh, I healed this. Oh, here it is again. I guess I didn't.
I was gonna say, it's like the ultimate life skill that we all really need to live. That's all that we're talking about. Yep. Because if you unlock this and you give yourself the time to actually meet yourself in these steps, I'm like, you're just going to repeat that skill over and over again. You're going to practice so you can play this life game, because ultimately we all want to feel more connected. We all want to belong. We want to feel confident. We want to feel expressive, but we have to learn this skill to like really be able to access that in the most authentic way.
1,000%. And it has to be a conscious endeavor, because our subconscious is going to effortlessly practice the old ways of being, the reactive state, hearing those you statements, those judgments, those comparisons, the critical mind, unless we start to shift our relationship to those ways that it shows up for us personally. And it's hyper personal. And that's the challenge and the opportunity, because a lot of people are looking outside of themselves for the healing, the guidance, the help. All of the answers are within. Yeah. And our system has guardrails and blinders on to keep us from those answers, because then the system has to expend additional energy in learning new ways of being. And our system doesn't want to do that. If the subconscious had its way, our survival mechanisms, we'd all be on some type of a holotropic drug, mood stabilizer. We'd all be under a weighted blanket, binging Netflix or eating Ben and Jerry's, because we're safe. We're not getting out of our comfort zone, and our system doesn't have to work any harder to do its job. Yeah. And so a lot of it was changing that relationship. And to your point, it is 100% not a linear journey. Yeah. And that's where the frustration can come in, because we apply that old way of being, the judgment. I'm not there yet. I should be there. Why am I not there yet?
The infamous should.
Should. Oh my gosh.
The shoulds.
My wife and I actually created a reel where we were shoulding all over ourselves.
Yeah, literally.
And we do it all the time. But who is saying that? And so if we can operate more from a place of openness and curiosity, I don't know, I'm curious to find out, and stop being so reactive to what we experience and slip into more of that observational place. One, it helps us to reduce the amount of meaning that we are assigning to anything we feel or any situation we experience. And this is where, kind of from a philosophical standpoint, we might get into some Eastern philosophies or Stoicism with nothing's ever happening to me, everything's happening for me. So through that lens, how can I make this situation fit that approach, fit that awareness? And a lot of it is a very internal, like shifting the landscape with some of these mindset shifts, with some of these mental games that we play. And the more we can make it light, the more we can turn it into a game where there's a book that Simon Sinek wrote called The Infinite Game. And it's more about leadership and kind of corporate or job-like settings. But I like to apply that to ourselves. And it's an internal game. We don't play with anybody else. There's no finish line. There's no reward. It's the continual evolution coming back to the true self.
Well, you're the second person on the podcast to talk about infinite games
Really?
and finite games. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. I also think it's so helpful to I remember once I talked to this energetic healer years and years ago in my early 20s, and you would give her permission and she would enter your energy over the phone. And then she would like remove blocks, or she would tell you what was coming up for her. And I remember one of the last times I talked to her, she's like, oh, there's a big mother wound here. I was like, yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
I'm like, get it out. Let's go. Like, and she said, nope, you're not ready yet to go there. You're not ready to heal that. Yeah. I'm like, well, when am I going to be ready to heal this? Like, I got shit to do, you know? Right. And she's like, 1 year. And
Okay.
it's so, no, it was very specific. And it's really interesting because that within a year, I had been looking for a therapist at the time to, start working more towards just understanding myself and
Yeah.
how to heal. And I had had like a pretty rough time finding someone. And literally almost a year to the day I met the therapist I ended up having for
Yeah.
7, 8 years.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I sat down and cried about was
I
my
love that.
mom.
Yeah.
And I look back and I'm like, wow, she was, first of all, that lady was tapped in. But second of all,
Yeah.
it was a great reminder that, again, it's not a linear journey, and knowing that it will unfold and it will come up to be healed when you're ready.
Yeah.
And even if she hadn't told me that, I would have probably ended up in the same place because I wasn't ready to look inward into that part of my healing.
But you were open to pursuing what was kind of next available for you on your
Yeah,
own journey. Right.
totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would have gotten there.
Yeah.
It might have been in a different time frame or in a different capacity,
Yeah.
but you were heading that direction no matter what.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, I moved back in with my parents, and then I learned it again.
Oh
and
my
then it's
gosh.
like, oh, I healed this relationship. No.
Right.
Like, here's a deeper layer. Let's go a little deeper.
I don't remember who said it, but it was on a podcast I heard, and I can't remember if it's the guest or the host, but they said, you think you're doing great on your enlightenment journey or on your
Ram
healing
Dass
journey?
said that. It's Ram Dass.
There you go. Yeah.
Go spend 2 weeks with your family.
Or get in an intimate relationship with somebody. Yeah, exactly. And that'll really let you know, like, hey, let's check in.
Yeah.
And I always share it. I say, my wife is my master's doctorate level in life because she is one of the last people that I ever am still kind of reactive to in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so appreciative of it because it's like, cool, there's more.
Do you think it's because you feel the most seen with her? Like you feel like you can show all of yourself?
I mean, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I can, but I feel like the opportunity and the challenge with intimate relationships is when we get comfortable, that part of us, that inner child, that core wound, whatever, tends to come out because it feels safer. And so after we get through, what you might colloquially call the honeymoon phase or being on our, P's and Q's of dating, that tends to come up for attention.
Mm-hmm.
And my partner can't do anything about that. That's my responsibility. And so it's been a beautiful signpost for me where and frustrating at the same time. And one thing I've worked on with clients is, wait, still again?
Yeah.
Like this is still a thing? This is coming up again?
When does this stop? When do we
Right.
get over this?
Yeah. So the cliche is, it's like peeling an onion, it's
Yeah.
getting through the layers of it. But with each step you take, again, to that non-linear approach, when you're in it, it's hard to see it. And this is actually something we got introduced to when our daughter was a toddler because we were focused on her eating. And we're like, oh, she's not eating enough balanced diet, kind of mono eating. And the pediatrician's like, don't look at the day, don't even look at the week, look at the month. So in the month, did she get a little bit of everything? Cool, she's fine. And so when we're on these journeys, we kind of get these like, the mountain seems too tall to climb some days. The effort seems too much. We get dropped into these places of nothing's changed. What's the deal? Why do I even try? But if we can get out of that stress reaction and recognize that's not the true self, that's I differentiate, it's the uppercase self and the lowercase self. And the uppercase self is the wisdom of voice, that inner knowing, the true self, our source connection, whatever you want to call it. The lowercase self is the programmed and conditioned reactive self, the survival self. And so it's reconciling those relationships. And what I'd like to say is integrating all of it. So we inform and support that lowercase self with letting it know, hey, you're safe. We got this, and I got you. Which so many of us don't get in life, especially from our parents, because they're doing the best they can with the tools they've gotten. And unfortunately, the owner's manual for these earth suits, most of our owner's manuals are highly redacted, and we're working on the
It's the Epstein files.
we're working on the scribbles in the margins, or it's like, wait, there's a coffee stain. What does that say? And it's getting out of that.
All we know is Bill
program.
Clinton was a part of it all. I'm just kidding.
Well, everybody, it seems.
But his name was the one that wasn't redacted.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, his name was one of the few that was not redacted.
I wonder why. Again,
they got to throw someone under the bus.
Pull back the lens. Let's look at the hows and the whys and the powers that be that are either giving or not giving, whatever the thing is. And we see that with mom and dad.
Yeah.
Oh no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Don't look over here. It's like, but that's where the cesspool of misery is. Yeah. Why won't I look over there? And I mean, that's a lot of our family systems are like that.
Hmm.
Oh, we don't talk about that. I mean, mid-century, 1900s, if there was a pregnancy out of wedlock, you get sent to the convent or you
Yeah,
get sent
literally.
to somewhere else. Like,
Just
oh no,
hide it.
oh no, no, everything's fine, everything's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
I mean, talk about energy suck. It's
Mm.
just you're just you're punching holes in your inner cup, in your inner space, and it's just draining out.
Hmm. Can I ask you a personal question?
Of course.
Is there something in your life that keeps coming back and you're like, damn it, I thought we put that away?
Yeah, I mean, it's
And what is it?
worthiness.
Mm.
Yeah, when we get down to it, what we've noticed in all of the clients we've worked with is generally we get to a down once we get through the surface level symptoms and the situations and the beliefs, it's either feeling unloved or unworthy.
Mm.
And some of us have both, some of us have more of one than the other. And interestingly, my wife's was unloved and mine was unworthy.
Mm.
And so, it's old habits die hard, but it's really a shift in relationship to it where if that voice does come up, it's not nearly as loud as it ever had been in the past. And I'm much more able to reconcile whatever the concern is in real time,
Hmm.
as opposed to letting it build up, letting it overflow, and letting it negatively impact other areas of life.
Do you find that it's the same story every single time, or do you find like the story of the belief of unworthiness has shifted over time?
So that's another challenge and opportunity that we talked about is the way it expresses is going to shift. And going back to that energy efficiency,
Mhm.
I pull a lot of different aspects in because everything's connected.
Mhm.
And we can move a lot more quickly if we're looking at the system as a whole
Hmm.
instead of trying to break down the parts. And when I work with people, a lot of times they find me after they've exhausted every other option because they've gone through the Western model. They've
Mhm.
looked at, oh, I'm having pain, or I have challenges with my liver or my kidneys or whatever. But in the West, we've kind of dissected down to the nth degree in a way that's siloing us from the greater truth or the deeper understanding.
Mhm.
And so when it does express, this is to me that inner game, that infinite game
Mhm.
of, oh, this is a weird thing, feeling, thought, emotion based on my focus, experience, or what I'm doing. Okay. Oh, I wasn't expecting it to come through in this way. Okay, but I can trace the path back to kind of that, there's still that bruise. Um, but to me, that's the game is being open and aware, curious, and non-reactive to what I'm feeling, thinking, or experiencing as an emotion.
Hmm.
So before I let it out, it's like, ooh. And it's like a lot of us connect with the label of the emotion and then emote, but we don't connect with where we're experiencing it physically.
Mm.
And that's the path to the answer. It's like, okay, I'm angry. Well, where is that? Well, it's in my chest and I'm feeling buzzy in the head. Okay, what's behind that? And that's kind of the thread that we pull to get to the deeper core answer, which then once we address that, what do you know? The symptom disappears
Mhm.
because the message has been received. So it does come through in different ways. But to me, that's like the fun part, going back to that gamifying it,
Mhm.
where it's like, and this is for the positive and the negative we might experience in life.
Mhm.
If we want to experience more positive, play with your source, play with the universe. Okay, universe, I'm doing the work. This is the outcome I'm going towards. I wonder how it's going to find me. I
Mhm.
don't know. So it's kind of getting back to that childlike play
Mhm.
and inviting the universe to co-create. On the same vein, in the other aspect, it's like, ooh, what is this? Oh man, I think I felt this before, but this is a little different. Oh, okay, you're communicating with me a little differently. Look at you. That's amazing. What's the message? What's the deeper thing? Oh, you're worried? We got this. You're okay.
How do you get people to a place of awareness? Because I think that is
Hmm.
one of the biggest challenges to of evolution within the self is
Yeah.
that once you are aware of what's happening,
Hmm.
you're able to maybe take that step back,
Yeah.
or even self-reflect, and then over time be like, oh, I'm triggered in this moment, let me take a minute. But how
Hmm.
do you get people to that first place of awareness?
So I like to say with awareness, we can do all things. And if we're not aware, that's the first step.
Hmm.
So for me, it's shifting that relationship of the one we assume that we are this, and
Hmm.
this is all that we are. And a lot of people are operating in that place. And So I think it's kind of, in vogue right now, but nervous system regulation is probably the biggest key. And then pushing our comfort zone with what we're allowing to be a limitation, or what we're allowing to be a fear, something we might dismiss.
Mhm.
And so with awareness, so I do very similar energy work where I can work with a client's system and get to the root of what's contributing to the symptom. And that's again, it's like the nervous system regulation is, I call it energy hygiene, and
Mhm.
everyone on earth should be doing energy hygiene every single day, to the same extent that most of us take showers, wash our clothes, wash our dishes. Um, so that creates that space of presence to connect with the awareness. And once we are aware, we can pull that thread on our own.
Mm.
And that was really my experience, where I had this big enlightenment experience, big breakthrough in 2019. And as soon as I came out of it, the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, if I could do this, everybody could do this. But fear's a hell of a drug.
I was like, no.
Beliefs are a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
The conditioned mind, who the labels, the archetypes, the
Mhm.
identifiers, they can be limitations if we over enmesh ourselves with them.
Mhm.
So I like to guide clients. I call it guiding inner inquiry, where really honoring that recognition of all the answers are within. I'm guiding you to those answers, and I'm assisting in changing the relationship, the landscape, or the intensity,
Mhm.
so that we can put down that survival program and invite in a new way that we'd rather be. That's the long answer. Short answer is breath work.
Yeah.
Because if we're doing some intense holotropic breathing and then
Mhm.
asking a question and turning off the thinker, you will get an answer.
Mhm.
Mm.
And I guide people a lot in that exercise as well.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we're seeking that from external, and people come to me and they're like, I'm looking for an answer. I'm like, you've already got them.
Yeah.
It's just
Tuning into
it's
your own self.
exactly, it's the layers of sediment of BS and programs and conditioned patterns that are creating the noise that's disconnecting us, or keeping that signal, that deeper knowing, quieter or less able to be connected with.
Mhm.
So it's not sexy. It's pretty straightforward. It's like, make sure you are balancing your brain,
Mhm.
you're resetting your nervous system, and you're coming back to the present moment multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Mm.
Something I'm thinking about right now, it's like, when we look at our world, I feel like we are kind of like an echo chamber of people that are healing, okay?
Yeah.
Mm.
But I also like want to have the belief that a lot of people want to heal, and like a lot of people
Mhm.
want
Mhm.
to work on themselves. But I also think that how do I say this? When we're coming from a place of lack or coming from a place of self-unworthiness, that external reaction is actually accepted by the world too in some way.
Mm.
Whether it's like being super successful and I'm like,
Mm.
well, I'm coming from a place of lack or whatever, so I'm
Mhm.
going to be super successful. And
We get rewarded.
we get
for
rewarded.
those.
That's a good
Yeah.
word. Like we get rewarded for things that and our parts are coming from a place of
Dysregulation.
dysregulation
Sure.
or
Yeah.
whatever, right? And so I always think so much of like, how can we show more people that there's another way?
Mhm.
And I think ultimately they have to come to that to themselves. But I also think that the more that we heal ourselves, we'll start to reflect that to other people too. Because I think awareness is not only like you recognizing, like, oh, I feel self isolated, or wow, my marriage isn't doing well, or oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted of this. I want to burn everything down. Like, we kind of wait till that moment of disruption, like the bomb already went off kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think the more that we heal, I was just thinking, I was like, God, there has to be another way. I'm like, what is the other way? And I think the more that we celebrate people working on themselves, or we celebrate like, wow, you just seeing them deeper than their external successes, I think that's also another way to bridge awareness for people.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where, again, you'll hear me say it a lot: opportunity and challenge. And when we are living in a dysregulated society, a dysregulated culture, the achievement through dysregulation is celebrated. But then the individual that's in that achievement or in that whatever, they quickly recognize the award, the championship, the exit in the startup, the sale of the business, getting to that C level, the
Yeah.
C-suite
And they're like,
level.
what the heck?
It's not the thing.
Yeah.
And you hear it across the board. Jim Carrey, I wish everybody could have $1 million to realize that's not the answer.
Mhm.
Like
What happened to
LeBron,
that guy?
I
You
mean,
seen him lately? Anyways,
I don't
that's a whole
know.
nother
I don't
conversation.
know if we have,
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know. It might not be him anymore.
Yeah.
Anywho.
But any athlete, you see this rise
Mm-hmm.
to greatness, and
Mm-hmm.
then you see the stuff come up.
Mm-hmm.
We just watched a documentary about Lamar Odom on Netflix. That's a great example. One of the most talented basketball players of all time
Mm-hmm.
got everything he wanted, and the wheels fell off.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was, I think I had a little bit of two things I think really benefited me. One is a lot of the extrasensory perceptions that all of us have that are completely normal and natural ways to experience this life. All the clairs, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, remote viewing, mediumship, being able to connect with loved ones that have passed, being able to connect with people across distance, just with thought. That's what we come with out of the
Yeah.
package. That's
And if you don't believe that, listen to the telepathy tapes.
This is our normal way of being. And clients freak out because they experience that with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either through reading the system, through muscle testing, or just getting a download. And then and sometimes I'll be like, okay, they're asking a question, they're wanting an answer, and I'll write down the answer and I guide them to get it to themselves. And then I hold up the thing I wrote, and it's always the same.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's not about one. I came to that later in life. Some people are turned on. They see ghosts very young. They're born into families that don't have that as something they navigate, so they freak out and they shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
So mine was an intentional journey that kind of flipped those switches on.
Mm.
The other thing I think was really benefited me was I was doing what I loved in life. I wanted to be a designer since I was in 7th grade, and I was a professional designer, user interface, user experience design, anything with a screen, so touch screen software, apps, websites. And at with the 3-year period of the more intense journey that we were on, I was still doing that work and I was loving it. So I was fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And my equation for fulfillment is, what's your natural superpower? That's for you to connect with.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be elder care, that might be teaching, that might be mechanic, that might be engineering. Mine was problem solving. I've always felt like I know how to make something more efficient. I know how to make something more usable or effective. And what I recognize I'm doing now is I've been training for that my entire 20-year career in design. And it's just this interface that I'm now assisting people in optimizing for themselves. So I had this place of, I won't call it success, but I felt very fulfilled. We were living the life that we wanted. I grew up surfing. I was making my own schedule, working with the clients I wanted to work with, surfing whenever I wanted. And at the time I was like, I could do this for the next 20 years and be so peaceful and happy. And my wife, about a year before my experience in 2019, is she was facilitating clients, and then I'm doing my own thing and healing myself, and then working with her and a couple other people to continue that journey. She's like, "You're really intuitive. You're amazing with people. You're very caring. You're very empathetic. Would you ever want to do this as a job?" And in my mind, I was like, "Yeah, maybe when I'm 60, like second career. Like I'm loving what I'm doing now." But to what you said a little bit earlier, the universe had other ideas with my co-creation, with my doing, which kind of launched things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's shifting our relationship to what we perceive as success, because I think having money in this society, in this culture, I mean, that's a whole nother episode of post-consumer, post-capitalist era that we're finding ourselves in. But recognizing there are certain more indelible ways that we exchange energy, money's one of them, it's the primary one, is a necessity, unless we're living communal and we're exchanging goods and services. But for most of us, it's still a necessity. So how can we have, be, and do at every step of the way? And for me, it's changing the relationship with, it's not if or when I get the thing, then I will be happy, fulfilled, safe. It's creating that first on the inside.
Right.
So that presence is what we co-create with. And then when we get the thing we're moving towards, it's icing on the cake.
And also, if you don't get the thing, you're still okay because you're grateful and present with where you are at the moment.
Because everything's happening for me. And in this moment, my base needs are met. And if not, I need to pivot and do something about that. I worked 2 jobs for years when our daughter was young. I worked restaurants all through high school and college, and I continued maintaining shifts serving in a steakhouse as I was building my design career. And I did that for a bit also. I maintained design work as I was starting this. And that's come with its own host of opportunities and challenges. But if we can connect, and this is what I call finding the being in the doing. If we can find that place of being, what's my goal for today? I want to be peaceful, present,
Mhm.
and productive. Okay. If I'm stressed, I'm worried, if I'm ruminating, if I'm hearing the you statements, that self-blame, I'm not present, I'm not peaceful, and that's going to impact my
Mm.
productivity.
Mm.
So it's dropping in, connecting with what's there for me right now, and really keeping it simple. To your point about that expansion journey, the coming back to self journey, it can feel like trying to drink from a fire hose. And so the important thing is just choose one thing. Am I working on improving my hydration? Am I working on improving my water intake? Cool. That's your only focus.
Yeah.
Am I working on building my business? And that's my focus. Okay, how can I do that with as much joy and presence as I can?
Mhm.
So it's not the thing we're doing, it's how we're doing it that really determines the quality we experience. And the biggest cliche of all is the journey is the goal.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of how I've tweaked it to, even if I am not in a place of external success, which again is
Mm.
just another judgment,
Yeah.
am I feeling successful? Oh, holy cow. Just in the experiences I've had, like amazing.
Yeah.
Am I where I want to be with connecting these approaches and
Mm.
these more transformational ways of being? Not at all.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of work to do in that regard, and I can do it with lightness and joy.
Mhm.
I feel like too, just being in awareness, if you're someone who's even aware of everything that is happening, finding like celebrating that. I think that in itself is a win and is, something that is far beyond so many people here that are just operating from a place of survival.
Yeah, yeah, and
Like that should be the mark. If awareness and emotional maturity were the mark of success versus financial gain and money,
right.
it'd be a very different world.
It would well, and
Imagine if we all strived for that instead of making millions of dollars.
well, and then we connect with kind of more of that unicity, more of that oneness, and
Right.
recognizing we're all in certain areas of expansion and challenge and struggle and opportunity.
Totally.
And like, and another really kind of powerful awareness application of like, how do we apply awareness to our everyday lives?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing anybody else says, does, or thinks has anything to do with you,
Right.
which is really hard, especially if we've grown up in a conditioned way of receiving attention or love for performance
Mm-hmm.
or needing to modulate ourselves or protect ourselves to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And so to your point about that jumping into the pool, I use the analogy of like jump off the high dive. It's like we run up to the edge, like, oh no, not ready yet today. And then it's like, oh, I'm ready, I'm ready. Oh no, not quite. And so having someone there to assist in the jump and recognizing that there's nothing to fear
Mm-hmm.
in the fall, you're gonna be caught.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I call it the trust fall with the universe. And it's a slow motion trust fall. It's kind of like the movie Inception, where we want everything to happen on our human timeline
Mm-hmm.
in hours, days, or weeks. But making these shifts for at the deeper levels that have a vested interest in maintaining their programming, that's where the art form, and I call it the art and science of self-healing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where the blending of the two come in. And the other analogy I use a lot is it's like turning a wheel on a battleship, where we make the shift at the subconscious level, it's instantaneous. I mean, we can transform a belief in minutes. We can transform a stress or a lifetime of stress in, you know, less than a half an hour. When we make those shifts on the inside, it tends to be some reconciliation and reconfiguring going on. And so the wheel gets turned on the battleship, but because there's a lot of mass and we are in these three-dimensional bodies that are entangled with so
Mm-hmm.
many things, thoughts, beliefs, our own physiology, that the course correction can take longer than we want it to. So that's where we circle right back
Yeah.
to, where am I in this moment? Where am I in this present moment? Grounding, nervous system regulation, seeing if we can challenge those thoughts, changing
Mm-hmm.
our relationship to the thoughts we have, coming back to those simple practices in the moment, which then can get us to that next big step.
Right.
Yeah.
I love all that so much. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think it really helps people break down like what does it really look like to become more aware. And it's really the first step, and then even if you think that you're like, I'm so aware of everything, if you go into these reactions, these triggers, these things, you're just building your awareness so that you can listen to it so much faster.
And it's the contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And if we boil it down, like those big questions, what are we here for? What is life all about? and again, simplifying it, problem solving, changing the framework, if we boil it down, all we're here to do is experience the contrast and release resistance to the contrast. But so many of us are in resistance to the contrast we experience, whether it's our past experiences, whether it's our thoughts, whether it's the frustration with not being where we want to be, that we don't have that present space to be able to use a lot of these tools. And so, yeah, it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, but for me, there's an exercise called cross crawls, which helps to reconnect the hemispheres of the brain in a more of a balanced brain state. It's an exercise I facilitate with clients at the beginning of every session, because no matter how much meditation or beach walks or breath work we've done in the day, our systems can snap into reaction in seconds. And it'll happen in a session. We'll muscle test, and we'll get the next step, which is maybe like the client system is like, oh, I don't know about that. And we will shift into dysregulation, and the client stops testing to their name. And so we pause,
Interesting.
we reset, recalibrate, and then once we're back in the present state, we're testing accurately, then we proceed. And so it is really one step at a time. And in the day-to-day, if I'm not working with clients, I've got my morning nervous system exercise. I've created a program where it's a 5-minute exercise in the morning, 5 or 8-minute exercise in the evening. And if you benchmark your day with those, one, you're going to take the energetic trash out first thing in the morning. And then 2, in the evening, you're not going to be carrying as much trash into the night, so you're going to sleep better. You're going to feel more regulated, more present. And then I like to call it playing catch and release during the day. So we could do our best in the morning. We're like, oh, it's going to be a great day. And we get a text or an email or a call or something comes through, and it throws us off our game. And then because it's so familiar, we run with that. And we go through the rest of the day in panic or fear or anger or frustration or scarcity, as opposed to playing that infinite game of, oh, nope, using those signposts of the shoulds, the need tos, the have tos, the you statements. Oh, no, that's not even me speaking anymore. All right, get regulated, catch it and release it. And then we maintain that more present flow state more often. And that's the cutover between a reactive life and a present life, is the practice. Because like we shared earlier, our system is going to practice the old ways of being without intervention and awareness.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what was it like going from working like in a restaurant and then into tech and then, or graphic design, and then all of a sudden doing this very, what some would say woo woo out there job? Like, how did you navigate that? And how did you just know that that was meant for you, even though it was so maybe forward thinking?
The first word that comes to mind, it was effortless, because I think in different ways I'd been practicing variations or versions like in a microcosm of these different things along the way. And my big salvation, cathedral, gym, confidant was surfing. And so I was regularly surfing multiple times a week, and that was my pressure release. That was my okay, cool. I can get the product, I can get the job done, I can get the project done. Oh, I got a shift at work. I can just be present, be there. Intensity of a restaurant's really easy. It's kind of hard, in a busy shift, especially to ruminate or to be frustrated. It's like, it's go time. So I found a lot of positive in the doing. And there's a cliche, or it's a Zen proverb. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
After enlightenment, chop wood,
carry water. And so that for me was before and after. And ironically, like, chopping wood is absolutely one of my favorite things to do. I love just a big stack of wood to break down, or digging a hole at the beach for our kids to play in, or doing some manual labor, because it's hard to be in your mind when you're focused on a task. And there was an interesting period where we were doing a lot of research, especially with like what I call now applied quantum physics. And you can look at it as quantum consciousness or Christ consciousness. Probably 15 other ways to think about it. But coming at it from the lens of, oh, everything's energy. Oh, okay, yeah, we hear that as a cliche. It's like energy can't be created or destroyed, it can only change form. But until I experienced that viscerally for myself, it was esoteric. It was a nice thing to think about.
Right.
So in some ways, it was a continuity. And in other ways, I was ready to drink from the fire hose. I was that like kind of shriveled up, like emaciated,
You needed to be watered.
And I learned the techniques, and I was like,
You were
Sign me
soaking
up.
it
I
up.
was a hydroponic, exactly.
You're like
yeah.
a sponge.
Yeah.
You're like, I needed this.
And because I was getting the reflection of the effort in real time, With
Mm-hmm.
every step I took, with every reaction that I didn't let out, and I got quiet and I got balance, and I found, or I connected with the emotion or the thing that was going on, I felt this expansion of lightness.
Mm.
And that was really the thing that kept me going. I'm like, I'm feeling lighter and lighter. I'm feeling better and better. My
Mm-hmm.
mind is getting quieter and quieter. Why would I ever stop this?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because at the time I was looking at tools like muscle testing and the emotion code and some of the subconscious transformation processes we look at as very practical. Partly because, and you both probably heard this, about 85% of our thoughts on any given day are going to trend towards negative. About 95% of our thoughts are going to trend towards something we've thought before, a
Mm-hmm.
version of something we've thought before. So I came across that information and I just had this like gut check moment. I'm like, well, screw that. I'm not listening to anything going on up here anymore. And what I've come to recognize is our brain is much more like Grand Central Station than any type of data center that things originate from. And so most of our thoughts are not kept in the brain. The synapses fire,
Mm-hmm.
the signal is received in the brain. That's where we see the activity. But where does the activity come from? And that's basically our field.
Outside
Everything
of
is kept in the
ourselves. Yeah.
field. Yeah. And so you can see this through the lens of, there's research that suggests that every cell in our body is regenerated about every 10 years, different parts in different rates. Stomach lining is about every 42 to or 48 to 72 hours because it's a highly acidic environment. Bones and brain matter is about every 10 years. So if we are literally a physiologically new being every 10 years, why do we still have the chronic pain? Why do we still have the migrating symptoms?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we still have the old ways of thinking from earlier in life? And it's because it's not kept within the system. It's experienced and expressed through the system. So the more we can clean up the energy in the field that expresses as emotion, as thought, as belief, the more we can come back to that kind of present moment more effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
So I came across that research and I decided to stop thinking I was just going to muscle test everything. What shirt I was going to wear in the morning, what I was going to eat for lunch, if we're going to watch a show, what movie or show are we going to watch? One, because I was so sick and tired of the noisy mind, and two, because I was fascinated by the responses I was getting from my system. So a lot of people might be looking at muscle testing, oh, that's woo woo. I look at it as one of the most practical tools that we could ever use for self knowledge. And so I think it's because it was like a wading pool into the deep end for me that I never really perceived it as woo woo, as very much of a natural progression. And only after I had my experience and I start working with clients and start having these conversations, I'm like, oh, this isn't common knowledge. This isn't common
Can
practice.
you quickly summarize what muscle testing is for people listening? Because I think a lot of people might not know what that is.
Yeah, so muscle testing is a way to get positive or strong and weak responses from the system, which we can interpret as a yes or a no, positive or negative.
The system meaning your body,
Your mind,
your
your mind
person.
body system. Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it can be done in a number of different ways. Generally, what you're going to find is the most aware is an arm muscle test that's
Mhm.
facilitated by somebody else. With self muscle testing, again, we are as much of a calibrated radar system as any highway officer with a radar gun.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times I talk to people where they get frustrated or they get disenfranchised with muscle testing because they don't trust themselves
Mhm.
or they don't trust the answers they're getting. So the first step is, well, let's work on that belief. I trust the answers I get from my system. I trust myself,
Mhm.
which most of us don't
Don't.
necessarily get. We're not afforded that in early life because we learn how to behave and
Mhm.
do based on mom, dad, culture, society, coaches, teachers, whoever is that important person in our life. So you can use your own system. If we're muscle testing ourselves, it's called a sway test, where we're standing in a neutral body position, ideally after we've become more present. So we're not carrying stress into it, because
Mhm.
that's going to give us a false positive a lot. And I guide people to do this in 5 minutes. And you say a positive statement out loud, maintaining a neutral body position, and then you wait. You
Mhm.
wait for your system to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, if you're using the full body sway test, a positive response is you feel a little bit of a forward movement. You might feel a little bit more weight in the toes. If it's a negative or a no response, you're going to feel a little bit more in the heels.
Mm.
There are also finger tests you can use. There's a number of different of those. We teach 5, and you can use the finger test to get the similar responses. So it's really a way of getting out of thought, getting
Mhm.
out of thinking we know, and really embracing that open and curious approach to anything.
Mhm.
And with practice, you can use muscle testing for making big and small decisions. You can test your alignment with an experience using a scale or a percentage. And it's really a way that you can become much more self-directed, self-aware, and self-regulated.
Mm.
And just like anything else, like kind of the theme that we've been talking about, it is a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you wrote that down because I don't think people really know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, last final question. It's already freaking going by so fast. I would love to know where in your life are you feeling called to be more fully expressed? I mean, I feel like you are such a man that's so in tune with what's going on in your world. So would love to know where are you feeling to be more expressed?
I think more, I would parallel expressed with embodied. Would
Mm.
you, where do you fall? Kind of, I know it's probably getting into semantics and
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I mean, for both of us, I think, for us, fully expressed is expressing your most authentic self and what is really embodied within
yeah,
yourself,
yeah.
right? So it's the act of trusting that your expression is the embodiment of what's true.
I think for me, it's being more embodied in my capacity and ability to be able to communicate the power and the opportunity in what I offer,
Mm.
and then being able to connect with people where they're at. Because I've, on my own journey, I've gotten to this place of looking at it through a certain lens.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, what my thought was with the book was, okay, read this, and then we're off to the races, which I've actually experienced. I've had clients, they said, I heard you on a podcast, I got your book, I read your book, let's go, I'm ready. So being able to have that same experience with people that maybe aren't as familiar and being able to meet them where they're at, that's something I'm continuing to cultivate and practice and hone. Because once we get into the work, it's like, oh, that's what you were meaning. And the lights go off and it's like, oh. And it's like this pop, 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 this firework of like, oh, game on. But without that connection there tends to be some hesitation, some judgment. I get that within my own family, some worry, some fear. And so being able to be that embodied presence with everybody that gives us that greater opportunity to co-create
Mm-hmm.
or to hand off.
Mm.
Because my goal is to put myself out of a job. That's my goal as a designer as well. I want to do the job so it solves the equation,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can go be and do everything you want.
Yeah.
And so for me, a lot of that is the knowledge transfer. It's the practice transfer. It's like, hey, these are some tools you can use on your own. You don't even need me. But then all of us have blinders on. All of us have certain aspects of life that are hard for us to see.
Yeah.
That we can really utilize that guide or that assistance to get to where we want to be.
Mm-hmm. I love that you brought this up because I think a lot of healers struggle sometimes to like bridge the gap between like meeting them where they're at, or like especially like practices that seem so woo woo or seem so like not like the go-to practice standard. But I think what people ultimately want, they just want to know how you're going to solve their problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're like, I need to express how I'm going to do that for you, and they don't really care so much about the how. Because I remember, I've just, for example, Reiki. When I first found Reiki, I was like, I don't know what Reiki is, but I'm going to go to this session because they said that they can calm my mind and I need something, like, and they're doing their Reiki thing. And I eventually went and learned how to get taught how to do Reiki. But if you would have told me what Reiki was doing, I probably would have gotten more lost in the sauce than actually just taking the session. Yeah. And once I went to the session, I was like, wait, I need this. So sign me up for 6.
Yeah.
And
That's
I think
funny.
that's like it's a great place, because I think sometimes people don't really want to know.
Right.
They don't need to know.
Yeah. That's actually how I found Reiki. Is I booked a massage in Kauai, ended up on this woman's table, and she's like, well, so I don't actually give a traditional massage. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, it was with my mom traveling, and we were been fighting. So I'm like, I don't care what you do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Just
like,
relax
hey, I'm
me.
Here, I'm on your
here.
table. Yeah.
And honestly, it was deeper than any massage I've ever had. And I'm like, whatever you did. She's like, it's called Reiki. I'm like, okay.
I love it.
But yeah, you just, and I'm glad she didn't explain it, because if she's like, I'm just going to hold my hands under your pelvis for a good 15 minutes and not do anything, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to pay for this.
You might feel some twitches. You might feel, yeah.
Or, so maybe just. remembering that.
I talk with people and they're like, well, what do you do? And I have clients. I'm like, well, how would you share what I do? And they're like,
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
It 100% worked. I don't know how to explain that. So a lot of times I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
do you got 5 minutes? Because I can show you.
Yeah.
I mean, the showing is a great place
Yeah.
to show.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
like a massage. I've also had massage therapists come up, you know, in Mexico. They're like,
Mhm.
I'll give you a quick
Just
taste.
a little hand or foot.
Yeah, a little
yeah,
taste.
yeah.
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 And you're like, okay, yeah, sure. That was great. Give
Yeah.
me more. So
Yeah.
you'll find your art in that.
And
you
that-
know, and I
that-
think that's the constant practice that we're constantly evolving in our expression, how we express ourselves.
And that's my refinement. Because
Mhm.
I want to be as impactful as I can
Mm-hmm.
and being able to hone that skill for myself. And that's actually one thing that is beautiful for me in this season, because in the past I've had business partners, I've had, you know, kind of a divide and conquer approach where I'm really focused on my skill set. And the translation aspect was not necessarily something that I was forced to
Mm.
hone, cultivate. And so for me now, I'm like, all right, now that's my new fascination of like, okay, how can I, in the
Express
most
what you-
efficient, most effective, most connective way, communicate not the how, but the what.
The what?
Again.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Well, such an incredible episode. And I'm so excited for you to continue to translate that, because I think more people want to know how to connect deeper within themselves so they can move through the chaos that they're meeting themselves in.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, that's what people want to heal, right? They're like, I don't feel good,
Right.
or something's wrong here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Am I losing my mind? I'm trying to be sane in an insane world.
so
When our daughter was young, I'm sorry to go over, when our daughter was young, she had this thing where she'd say, I'm losing my insanity, which I think is absolutely perfect,
Yeah.
because trying to adapt to a dysregulated or insane world
Mm-hmm.
is kind of an insane thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So let's lose our insanity and come back to our source,
Mhm.
which is internal. And that's the sane world. That's that self-regulated, self-directed, self-guided, self-embodied world where if we're all doing it for ourselves, that's where all the problems really externally really get real simple, real fast.
mm,
But it's those of us that are trying to connect with that safety by controlling others, by dictating, that's where things get messy. Because at the end of the day, we are sovereign, self-guided, self-directed beings that seek freedom and creativity.
Yeah.
And anything that gets in the way of that's going to gum up the works a bit. So we're getting there.
so good.
Yeah.
Process.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you
This
so
was so
much.
great.
Thank you both. This is an absolute treat. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
So good to have you on.
It's been beautiful being here. I really appreciate it. It's amazing to continue our conversation and to
I know.
keep moving forward, walking down the path in
Yeah.
our own time.
We're
but
walking each
together.
other home
That's
together.
It. That's it. That's all we're doing. Grist for the mill.
We hope you loved today's episode and that it sparked something in yourself on your journey to becoming more fully expressed.
Don't forget to check the show notes for all the details and resources from today's conversation. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review.
We'd love to hear your thoughts and takeaways, as it really helps us to create better content that actually serves you.
This week, we invite you to show up even more as you, more honest, more real, more expressive in your life and business. And we'll see you on the next one.